You look at Joe Donnelly winning the U.S. Senate spot. He appealed to the middle.
Democrats can win in this state. We just have to appeal to moderate voters, progressive liberal voters.
Those independent Republicans, that's how Joe Donnelly and Glenda Ritz both won.
Joe Donnelly came out swinging an axe at the time, literally swinging an axe, and it didn't help
That's right.
It didn't help him win. The countdown continues to Election Day, and our Indy Political Insiders are back to talk about it. Democrat Brian Gaddie, Republican Jim Merritt, and Abdul-Hakim Shabazz from IndyPolitics.org, who kept us waiting because he had to go get his Superman socks on and his Starbucks cup to accompany him. Let's dive right into the races as we get closer. Well, I mean, we're in the midst of early voting. Let me dive into that very quickly, Abdul. I know we talked about this a little bit last week. Have we heard much about what turnout has been like? Because across the country, turnout numbers have been kind of all over the place. They usually go down for midterms. Midterms getting a lot of attention in some places this year. What are we hearing about Indiana so far?
It is better than 2014, but not as good as 2020, obviously. Here in Marion County, I've been doing some checking. I'll have the numbers a little bit later today. But like I said, it's more than 14, but less than 20. So I would say in Marion County, it's about normal. Like I said, we're doing some checking to see what they look like in other parts of the state. But usually Democrats tend to do better with early voting. Republicans tend to do better on Election Day.
I was very curious about Marion County since we've got that high-profile Marion County prosecutor race that we were going to delve into. Let's just go ahead and dive into that. As far as the amount of money being spent, there's a lot of money being spent, a lot of money being raised. Cindy Carrasco, the Republican candidate, Jim, had a very good fundraising quarter. There's been some question, although if you look at the breakdown, it's interesting where the money is coming from, both Republican and Democrat. I saw a friend of mine complain about some of the out-of-county money coming for Cindy Carrasco, meaning some folks in Carmel, some folks in Westfield who were donating. But to be sure, Ryan Mears, the Democratic prosecutor, also has some out-of-county money. I'm curious as to why there's so much outside interest in the Marion County prosecutor's race that they would be giving their political donations to try to get someone elected outside the place where they live.
Well, thank you for having me, Ray. I think we all know that the Marion County prosecutor is one of the most powerful positions in the state, and it's a race that there's a lot of interest in because crime is the issue of most, other than inflation and groceries and gasoline. With inflation, crime is the biggest issue going all around the country, and Marion County is not any different. And for the race that people have interest in outside Marion County, that's always been the case. And when I ran for mayor, there was a lot of interest outside Indianapolis on that. It's kind of the race that everybody's watching because Cindy's run a very, very good campaign. She's shed a lot of light on what is going on in Marion County, and it's affected so many lives. And I think it's closer than we know. It's probably one of two races who, political junkies like us pay attention to. I'm not certain that the people in Marion County are paying attention to this race or any other race, but Cindy's run a good race. She has shed a light on it, and that's why there's so much interest today.
And Marion County is a Democratic county. We know if Democrats turn out, then that should mean a Ryan Mears victory. Question is, are Democrats going to turn out in the midterm?
Oh, Democrats are definitely going to turn out, no doubt about it. We're fired up. When you look at what's going on in the country with the hard right turn of the Republican Party, not just here in Indiana, but across the country, we Democrats want to turn that back and move America toward a progressive agenda and a sensible center. And that just redounds to all races, and that includes the Marion County prosecutor's race. And I think Prosecutor Mears is going to win. He's going to ride that wave of Democratic support to victory. And regarding money coming from outside Marion County to Prosecutor Mears and to Cindy Carrasco, his opponent, I'm sure that's just Hoosiers that just want to voice their opinion and have an impact on the Marion County race. So I'm not against that. Regardless where a Hoosier lives, they have a right to donate money to whatever campaign they want to donate to. But in the end, as I've said, close but no cigar, you're going to lose.
And if I could chime in real quickly, Ray, something else to keep in mind too with the outside money, particularly for Cindy Carrasco, coming from sort of outside of Marion County. Even though you have people who live outside of Marion County, they still, for the most part, work in Marion County. Marion County is the economic center of central Indiana. So even though a person may not necessarily live, like I said, in the downtown area or near north side of Washington Township, it doesn't necessarily mean they don't have an interest what happens in Marion County. So I just want to make that point.
I agree.
Now, as that leads into my next topic, and that is Democrats and how they are competing statewide, because James Briggs in the Indianapolis Star had a column this past week that essentially said Democrats are not doing an effective enough job of campaigning to win statewide, meaning, and he specifically singled out Tom McDermott, the U.S. Senate candidate, the challenger to Republican Senator Todd Young in the debate they had most recently. James's argument, and this is an argument that's been made before, is that Democrats aren't making a good enough argument to Republican voters, and he specifically mentioned Trump voters as to why they should cross back over the aisle and vote for a Democrat in 2022. Brian, our Democrats are making that kind of argument to the Trump voter. Should they be making that argument to the Trump voter? Because my counterpoint might be, well, if we try to cross over and appeal to a Trump voter, then why are Democrats going to show up at the polls and vote for a Democratic candidate?
I agree with you, Ray. I mean, I'm sorry, my good friend Gene Briggs is just wrong on this one. Democrats, we have to be true to who we are. And if you're a hardcore MAGA voter, are you going to really vote for a Democrat? Can we get serious here? So I don't know what James is talking about. The fact is that Democrats have to represent the values that we have. And what we do is we try to not only bring our voters to the polls, but we have to also try to get those persuadables. And that includes independents, that includes moderate Republicans. So why in the world would we waste our time trying to go after hardcore MAGA Trump voters and dilute our message and at the same time risk turning off our own base? So yeah, I know Indiana is a Republican leaning state, but Democrats can win in this state if we run sensible, progressive, moderate progressive voters, candidates, excuse me, to appeal to progressive, moderate voters. Not to mention run in the middle, center left, and try to appeal to not just Democratic base voters, but also moderate Republicans and independent voters. That's the key to victory in this great state of Indiana as a Democrat. We don't need to be Republican light. I mean, we don't need that.
Jim, as a Republican who probably would not be persuaded to vote for most Democrats, I guess that would be depend on the race. But what do you think about Democrats and the arguments they make? Do they try enough to reach across to the Republican voter to persuade them, particularly in a race that we're going to talk about here in a second, the Secretary of State's race, which is probably going to be the closest race that we are watching on election night?
Well, Brian's right. It's a thin line with Democrats in the state, and I'd like to say that it's kind of candidate driven, and you also have to make sure that you're spot on and you don't make any mistakes whatsoever. And you look at Joe Donnelly winning the U.S. Senate spot, and that was. He appealed to the middle and won that race. Now, I don't know if anything's going to happen this year because I think it's going to be a Republican victory on election night. But it's quite difficult. It's just like Marion County with Republicans. It's really difficult for a Republican to win statewide. And it's always been that way, other than an Evan Bayh or Frank O'Bannon, who was kind of a moderate Democrat. And so I'm sure that Mayor McDermott has been waiting for Todd Young to make a mistake, and he hasn't. And I look forward to a big win for Senator Young on Tuesday night.
You know, one of my political heroes, Birch Bayh, was a very dominant Democrat in this state. So Democrats can win in this state. We just have to appeal to moderate voters progressive liberal voters, hold our base, and then try to get those persuadables, and that's moderate Republicans and independents.
And that's
the
very
hardcore
important.
MAGA types, why would we waste time trying to go after them? So James Briggs, sorry, you're wrong.
If I could interject here, gentlemen, for just a quick moment, Democrats can win in Indiana if they appeal to those Lugar Republicans, those Lugar and Daniel type Republican folks. I jokingly say it's sort of the outer ring of the donut. You have the 465 circle, which is mostly Marion County. Then you have 32 to the north, 267 to the west, Route 9 to the east, and 135 to the south. It's those Republicans in those areas, those suburban Republicans that Democrats need to win. If you're a Democrat trying to go after a Donald Trump Republican, I agree with Brian that what would be the point? That'd be a waste of time and resources. However, going after those moderate Republicans, those independent Republicans, that's how Joe Donnelly and Glenda Ritz both won. They went after those moderate Republicans. And also, Richard Murdoch and Tony Bennett had some baggage too. So you need sort of all those things working together for Democrats to have a statewide victory.
And that may be the case. And I think, as Jim alluded to, you're not working with a senator who has a lot of baggage in Todd Young right now. But as far as going after those Lugar Republicans, the moderate Republicans, realistically, how many of those are left?
Actually, I think quite a few.
Party?
I would say about 40% of the Republican Party. If you look at sort of the last primary where there was a contested primary, are those Lugar moderate Republicans. If you think about when Dick Lugar won, Richard Murdoch beat him 60-40. When Dan Coates won the U.S. Senate primary, he had about 40% of the vote, which once again was a plurality because there were so many people running. So I'll say about 40% are those sort of the Lugar Daniel type Republican folks, just based on the last couple of elections.
I would think our good friend Jim Merritt is a Dick Lugar Republican.
Well, and maybe Jim? So.
If I put you on the spot here.
No, that's a nice compliment. That's a nice compliment. I think Todd Young has run a great campaign, and he's served well in Washington, and I call that the Senator Lugar seat, and so he has a lot to live up to.
I just think Joe Donnelly came out swinging an axe at the time, literally swinging an axe, and it didn't help.
That's right.
It didn't help him win. So I don't know that I think the party shift has been such within the Republican Party that those Lugar Republicans, I don't know if they are that big a number anymore, or at least not enough of them are willing to pull that lever in the election booth when they see the D next to somebody's name, just because they just can't do it for one reason or another.
Ray, then it's incumbent upon us as Democrats to get more of our voters to the polls.
See, Ray, but also what I think too is you need sort of two things happening right here. You need the Lugar Republicans and the Daniels Republicans on the one hand to vote for you, but also you need a candidate who's flawed and is going to make a mistake out there. I think Diego Morales is a much more flawed candidate than Todd Young is. So I think Destiny Scott Wells has a better chance of reaching those Lugar Republicans than Tom McDermott does, because once again, Todd Young is he's your classic generic establishment Republican. Let's just be honest here. And go ahead.
That's okay. No, that leads me into my next point. Let's talk about Diego, because one of his accusers in the sexual misconduct allegations realm, I assume this is one that you talked to, Abdul, as well, spoke to Caitlin Lang with the Indianapolis Star recently, said that she went to Todd Rokita, the Attorney General, Diego Morales' former boss in the Secretary of State's office, and said, here's what happened. Please don't support him. And yet the Attorney General ended up at a fundraiser for Diego Morales. Mike Pence, the former vice president, former governor, headlined that fundraiser for Diego Morales. It just seems like we're in a place. Let's go to Jim Merritt first. Again, these are only allegations. Let's stipulate that. But regardless of everything that has been said about Diego Morales, it doesn't seem to matter for some people, because the ultimate goal, the ultimate thing is getting a member of your party in that office, because we're seeing kind of the same thing with Herschel Walker in the Senate race down in Georgia.
And we're also seeing it with John Fetterman in Pennsylvania. There are a lot of candidates around the country who
John Fetterman had a stroke. I mean, can you compare that to Diego Morales?
He hasn't been accused of sexual misconduct.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
No, I'm just saying. I'm saying the candidates have hurdles in front of them, and the opposite party is using that as not using it, but it's a part of the race. And I think you have to look at races as a whole. And you look around the country, and there's so many different things going on, with crime and inflation as being the issue at hand. But specifically in the state of Indiana, I went door to door for Senator Kyle Walker, who's in a tight race in Fishers in Marion County. And I hit about 52 doors on last Saturday and found relatively no one at home. But who I talked to, there was not apathy, but they were more interested in their own lifestyle, meaning, their grocery shopping, or really most people talked about the gas prices. And so what I was talking about with Pennsylvania, with Indiana, with all sorts of different places, with you mentioned Herschel Walker, and these outside issues that are playing a role. I think a lot of people have just gone in October, have gone into a point of there's just a lot of white noise out there, and they're going to make a decision if they're Republican or Democrat and Libertarian, and they're going to vote if they vote. And I think it's going to be a low turnout this year. School boards where all the excitement is.
Brian, is going to be a low turnout with everything that's going on? I mean, because Marion County's had that issue before. All these other counties turn out, and Marion County doesn't.
I think with Maya Eldridge, our new Marion County chairwoman of the Marion County Democratic Party, I think she's going to do a very good job with helping get turnout out with the Marion County Democrats. And going back to Diego Morales, I know he's running TV ads now, calling himself Republican Diego Morales. He's trying to cover himself in the shield of the Indiana Republican Party. Well, Sleazy D, and yes, that is your nickname I've given you. You are without a doubt one of the sleaziest candidates who's ever run for the Secretary of State's office of the great state of Indiana. With all the allegations against you, whether it's these, and again, they're allegations, but there's a lot of smoke there. So unfortunately, there may be a fire there flickering. But with the sexual assault allegations against him, he was fired twice from his job at the Secretary of State's office. Just the car, again, like I said, I'm still trying to figure out, was it the luxury package or the sports package he got? Because that's a $40,000 car, so he had to have gotten something pretty high with that. And
Ray, this is Political Insiders. Your show is Political Insiders. That's all. People aren't concentrating on that. We know that
they care. They care. How many Hoosiers can go out and buy a $40,000 car? And he didn't even buy it with his money; he bought it with campaign donations. That's
somebody in Granger, Indiana, is getting to work, worried about daycare. These are issues that are important, but people are not concentrating on if Diego's campaign car.
They care. They care because you know why? Because Hoosiers and Americans in general, we do not like political corruption, and that is the epitome of political corruption. Using campaign donations to buy a campaign car. Why did he use his own money to buy this campaign?
This is what political election is about.
Right. That's very politically corrupt. So I think in the end, Sleazy D will lose, and Destiny Wells, who is a very good candidate for us Hoosier Democrats, she will win.
Diego's going to win.
Let's give Abdul the last word here. Let's give Abdul the last word here on whether Secretary of State. Is any of this going to ultimately matter, do you think, or how much is it going to matter once people
I think the sexual misconduct allegations do matter. I think they will matter, particularly to those suburban Republican women who are already upset about the abortion issue. However, I spoke recently to a top-ranking Republican recently, and he told me something really interesting. He said, Diego Morales is just like Charlie White. He'll get elected, and then he'll leave the office and we'll appoint somebody else. So I think the logic is
elect somebody you think is going to lose.
Hold on a second, Brian. I think the logic is for Republicans, it's keeping the seat. And so that's why you have a lot of people just sort of biting their lip on the whole Diego Morales controversy, thinking Diego will probably self-destruct if he gets elected, and then they'll just appoint someone else and then keep the seat.
So
I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm saying that. Hold on a second, Brian. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm saying that's sort of the logic and rationale behind some Diego Morales' ardent supporters.
Just elect Destiny Wells, and you don't have to worry about that. That's all I got to say on that.
Well, Destiny does have a shot. She's got a path to victory.
She's got a very good shot, and she will.
All right. Well, we will see. We can't wait to gather us all, except for, I think, Abdul, who is precluded somewhere else on election night. We'll gather together on our couch, and we'll watch it happen right here. But we got a little bit more time to go before election night, and our insiders will be back very soon. Brian Gaddie, Jim Merritt, Abdul-Hakim Shabazz, appreciate it.